Ned, my wife Fulmer, formerly of the Try Guys, has come back in a blaze of glory 3 years after being caught cheating on said beloved wife. And it was.
I found out about your affair from the fans. And I didn't even let you say anything. I was like, turn this car around. You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember it happening like that, but it doesn't matter. Like I've been hurting this person that I love this whole time.
You didn't realize until then?
It was interesting. Well, hey there, I'm Kat, your branding bestie. This is Creatives Collective Co-Channel. We talk all things branding here, and your girl loves a good analysis, a good breakdown, especially of a train wreck. So I figured, why not bring that here, talk about what's been living in my head rent-free for the past month or so, and that is Ned Fulmer and his comeback. In this video, I want to talk about what he did wrong, what if he had come to me and looked me in my eye holes and asked for help, I would have told him. And also how you and I may have something in common with his comeback, more than we think. Well, first I've got to get you into the lore. Who is Ned Fulmer and why do we care about him? Ned Fulmer was a man who was part of a group called Try Guys, which was formed in this millennial website corporation called BuzzFeed. They started throwing their workers into different skits and different formations of groups where they would do fun things. And out of those groups formed was Try Guys. Try Guys was formed with 4 men. We had Keith, the funny guy, Zach, the cutesy guy, Eugene, the hot guy, and Ned, who professed himself, and I cannot emphasize enough, he professed himself to be the wife guy. He got in this group, and because he was the only one that was married, that became his characteristic, and that was the one characteristic he clung to. You would hear, my wife, I love my wife, my wife, my wife.
I'm married to my wife. My wife, my wife, my wife.
Throughout all of his skits, throughout all of their shows that they would do. And he became quickly known as the guy who was married, who loved his wife profoundly. And you know what? It worked for him. Everybody loved him for it. In fact, they loved all the guys for it. They grew in popularity, and they were the most popular group within that business, within BuzzFeed. And soon enough, they had enough fans and a really crazy contract from BuzzFeed that wanted to have sole use of their likeness for all perpetuity. That gave them the nudge they needed to spread their wings and fly. They started their own channel, and it grew even more from there. They went on tours for their fans. They did meet and greets. They were doing a documentary. They had merch. They were growing, and they were becoming a thriving empire within their own right. And it was going amazingly until Ned decided to blow it all up. September 2022, Ned was found canoodling, and when I say canoodling, he was grinding and making out in a public space at a college club with people who were in the age group of his fans, and was caught doing so with a coworker. And unfortunately, as part of his brand, he pulled his wife in it, so she was also very well known, and they let her know what was going on. She found out, and shortly after that, Ned Fulmer was no longer part of the Try Guys. He had to step down. Now, we don't know exactly if he was fired or what happened there. And I say allegedly fired very heavily because he was a part of the company. He was a founding member of the company. I don't think you can just fire him. They probably bought him out or whatever else. But for all intents and purposes, Ned and the young lady he cheated with, Alex, who was also a subordinate under him, were taken out of Try Guys. And they were no longer featured in any of their material. He shrunk back into the shadows and essentially disappeared for 3 years. And outside of a vague sighting here and there, we didn't hear anything from him again. Until this year in September, this man showed up with one Instagram post, an interview with Us Weekly, and a random pop-up channel called Rock Bottom with Ned Fulmer. He started a podcast. And side scandal, he started a podcast using his estranged wife, because we did find out that she did leave him and they're no longer romantically together, but I think they're together for their kids. That's neither here nor there. But anyway, his estranged wife had a YouTube channel where she shared more of their lifestyle and things that was going on. And she also had a podcast. He used that channel, wiped all of her videos off, and kept her fans, kept the following, and used that for his podcast. That's messy. But that's neither here nor there. That's none of my business. We'll talk about that another time. I watched in pure horror as I watched this man proceed to give us a half-hearted, victimhood-filled, accountability shifting apology and a very cringeworthy interview with his now estranged wife. And I was honestly speechless. I had no idea what was going on, and it was not accepted well. To keep a very long story short, because it was over an hour of podcast, there's so much more that we can go into, but for the sake of staying on task, we're going to focus on the facts here, which is it was not received well. Fans purely were happy to see his wife, were happy to hear that she was doing well despite what happened, but they were not accepting of Ned. They were very upset. They were making fun of him. Nobody really wanted him back, and they made it very well known in his comment section. And yet he persisted. Not only did he continue posting on this channel, because at the end of everything, he decided that he was going to use this platform that he stole from his wife to promote other people who have faced rock bottom, to share their stories, to hear about how they came up and give them a platform to share those stories. And on top of that, he started another channel where he's trying a bunch of new things. He wants to try different things, do different experiences, have fun with other people. And that sounds really, really, really suspiciously familiar. On paper, he's not doing bad yet. Podcast wise, the podcast completely tanked after the first episode with Ariel. Nobody's interested in hearing Ned. And this other channel, I believe, based on the comments, it's safe to say that the other channel is filled with hate watches. Is he going to be able to have longevity? I can say with full confidence, no. Once the shock factor wears off, no one is going to keep their interest in what he's doing. And that's unfortunate for him. It didn't have to be that way. What did he do wrong, outside of the obvious? Well, first off, he came in way too hot, way too soon. You have to think about the fact that Ned built his empire on being a wife guy. And not only did he do that, but he also built a parasocial relationship with his audience. And we were really connected. People were connected with his name, his story, his wife. We watched them go from a young married couple to pregnant to having their first 2 kids to buying his own house. They had a cookbook together. They were very, very open as far as what we were able to see. They shared what seemed to be a complete aspect of their lives. And so we felt involved. We felt like we were internet aunties and uncles or cousins watching. And so it was difficult to have that carpet ripped from underneath you. And then the person who did it run off and ghost you for 3 years. And now you want to come back. And not only do you want to come back, but you came back and you didn't take accountability, which we'll talk about. And you also are wanting to position yourself in a place of authority, as if we're supposed to just expect or trust that you've done the work to come back in these 3 years, and position yourself as an area of authority with coming back from rock bottom. And it just didn't go well. It doesn't translate well. He didn't give the time that the audience needed to properly grieve what he had done, to feel the betrayal, and to take accountability, which will bring me to what he did wrong number 2, which was he didn't take any accountability. If you go back and you watch, I don't know if I'm going to share his, but there are plenty of people who have done commentary on the podcast, and they almost all say the same thing. He was swirling around accountability. He was moving around, boxing like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. He was dipping and dodging the accountability, and it was a hard watch. He was not apologizing. He was apologizing, but not. He was apologizing because it sounded right. You can tell that he wasn't being genuine. He was blaming Ariel, blaming the audience. He's blaming us. for thrusting this persona upon him, and it was very, very strange. It was just not. He didn't take any accountability. So you pile this on here. You took what everybody believed to be a real and loving, genuine relationship. You ripped that rug from underneath your audience who was connected to you and your family. You now disappear. So there's a lack of connectivity. There's a hurt and betrayal parasocially that's there. You come back, and now you're not really taking accountability. You're kind of low key taking a little jabs at the wife that was betrayed. You're giving responsibility to us as an audience. He just didn't do well. And all of it seems rushed. It seems rushed. It seems like it wasn't fully thought through. And it very much so conveys on camera. And it also showed that he was not ready to be able to tout himself as an area of authority in this place, because could not even take accountability for the destruction he caused. He ruined not just his wife, but he ruined the foursome that we had come to love, the comfortability that the audience loved. He ruined an empire essentially. And there was such a tepid apology that it really did not ring well for his audience base. He lacks clarity. He lacks clarity and direction, which is my number 3. And it is very obvious. He says with his words that he wants to be this person on a platform, that he wants to share his platform with other people who've lost their way or experienced rock bottom, and he wants to give them a platform to tell their story. But then you're copying a lot of the tropes and a lot of the skits and things that you did with Try Guys alone. I think there's a segment where he's done a dating show, very tone deaf, and I don't know if he thought he was being cheeky or if it was on the nose or whatever, but it did not read well. You say you're doing one thing and you're going in 20 different directions. It is very much giving you're throwing every piece of spaghetti at the wall trying to see what sticks, and it shows. And bonus, I didn't even write this one down, but I'm going to share it. He is obviously, with this attempt, trying to get back the audience that he once had. It seems like he's desperate to go back to what it once was, and unfortunately that is no longer there. He's got some really hard realities that he might have to face. And the unfortunate thing is, it didn't have to be that way. What would I say to a Ned Fulmer who has come and sat across from me and is needing to rebuild after something like this? The same thing I would say to you. And this is where I'm going to sound crazy, but hear me out. What if we do have a common thread with what Ned is going through right now? No, we did not cheat on our spouse, hopefully. But we have had life happen to us. We have had to take a hiatus. We've had to pivot in our career or in our business. And we have to navigate how to rebuild from zero, or rebuild from further down than zero, maybe from a ditch, and pick ourselves back up and move forward. How do you do that? How could Ned have done that? Here's what I would have told him had he come to me, looked me in my eye holes, and said that, hey, I want some help. One, we would have a very honest conversation about what he wants to come back for and who is he trying to serve. Now, I'm not saying that he has to come back and be a martyr, but I am saying that he needs to figure out who it is that he's wanting to serve or talk to. Because with anyone, from a YouTube personality to a brand or someone in marketing who wants longevity, having that connectivity with your audience is paramount. You have to want something more than just the numbers or the audience. You need to have people who are engaged, wanting to connect with you, rooting for you, and ready to support you in whatever it is that you're wanting to offer or what you're wanting to endeavor to do. And I would have told him that he needed to slow down and really hash out who it is he wants to serve, and do that honestly, because in a space like that, what you're known for it tends to stick to you, which is why it stuck to him and it worked, because he embodied that. He was able to share personal things with us, whether it didn't seem all that personal to him, and for all we know, maybe it was curated, we don't know. But what we do know is we connected with him. We connected with the realness that we were presented. And I think that he needs to slow down and get back to that and not chase what he once had. We need to figure out who he wants to actually serve and what he's wanting to do. It is way harder to get an audience to understand you than for you to take the time to understand them, where they are, and how it is that what are they looking for to show up in that space. And then take an honest assessment on whether it is something that you're able to offer them and go from there. Second, I would tell him full transparency. He's going to have to make it about him. He lacked accountability. He he did. Now he did. I will, to his credit, he did apologize. He would sometimes apologize for things that it was very obvious and clear that he couldn't get out of on the podcast. But it was a hard thing to watch this man who, it was like he could barely stand sitting in the hot seat for a minute. He wanted to address it, and now let's move on and let me be in a place of authority. And it's a no. Like, you have to be willing to hold your feet to the fire. How different would it have been had he come back to the platform that he was on, or whatever platform, whether it be, honestly, I would say his best bet would have been TikTok, because he needs to build connection and he needed to build it quickly. And I think that had he shown up in that space and said something, some kind of catch all there along the lines of, as a single man who's divorced because of his affair, let me share with you some things that I've learned, or some things that caused me to have the affair. If he would have taken the time to slow down and build that brand authority by talking about his cheating, how he cheated, his regrets, what he should have done instead, I think had he taken the time to connect that way, it would have done wonders. Again, it would have been a little slower, but it would have done wonders for his reputation, and it would have built that brand authority that then would have given him the right to say, hey, this is my podcast, this is what I'm wanting to do, and give that kind of platform for other people. So, like Ned, I would tell you, pause and make your first interactions connectable, make them relatable, and tell a story. Take it slow. You need to take people along on your process. Now, if you're like a big corporate brand, of course, there's going to have to be something a little bit different. But if you are the face of your brand and you are the person on social media sharing your story, your best bet is by being more personable and sharing from a space of learning to build that trust, so that way you can be the brand authority and you've got a connection built with those people. And the final thing would be, which you're going to sense a theme here, slow down. It is way too fast for you to jump in and expect to do all these different things. And I think this is something that we fall into as someone who's a millennial. Me and Ned are only a few years apart. I'm not too much younger than him. And so I've seen us navigate this space because we were the generation who both had no computers and then were thrusted into a world full of social media networks and computers. And I noticed that with my generation, we tend to be very personified. We want to put on an air. It can be fake. Nobody cares. And that was something that worked for us back in the beginning because we didn't know what we were doing. And you shove a camera in someone's face and you're wanting to be relatable, but also not seem like a dweeb. And so I get it. Like, you tend to feel like you have to say certain things that sound good. But one thing that has happened that's been a big shift is that with COVID and the introduction of TikTok that really took off during COVID, I noticed that people are really desiring and craving real connectivity. They want to know you. They want to laugh with you. They want to understand you. They want to feel like they're on FaceTime with you. They want that kind of intimacy. So doing the whole like fake persona doesn't necessarily work. Pick something that's true to you and stick to it. And then, like I said, take it slow. He jumped in so fast and he felt like he was able to just do that because that's what he had before. And so I'm not sure if he's just not consulting anybody or what have you, but it looks very rushed. It looks very money grabbish, and it just looks like he didn't do a very good job analyzing or assessing the situation before he decided to jump himself back out there. And so I would say the same for anybody. I would say to just take it slow, build what your connecting point is, understand your audience, go from there. And then as you build that, you're then able to introduce and bring your branding in. Take people in behind the scenes, help them to feel like they're more a part of the process than watching the process. And it'll go worlds better for you than it has for Ned. I'll tell you that much. So, is all hope lost for Ned? I'm going to be wild and say no. But the jig would have to be up. Like, he would have to stop everything. He would have to stop and sit in front of that camera, non vocal fry, because my goodness, the vocal fry was deep. It was deep fried vocals. And he would have to sit and genuinely sit in front of the camera and just share, listen, this is why I did this. I missed being back in this. I know I don't have, he would have to be super humble. He would have to share a lot more and be a lot more honest than trying to present a front. But who knows? I don't know what he may do. Now, he can come see me if he wants to get more details on what it is I would tell him to do. I will leave that on a cliffhanger there. But anywho, that is it. That is all for me. I'm going to step down from my soapbox. If you find yourself like Nasty Ned, ready and needing to pivot your business, your career, your social media, I have a tool that is perfect for you for my sponsors. It's me. I'm the sponsor. I'm sponsoring myself. I have a branding agency and I specialize in helping brands elevate from their side businesses to a brand thriving with purpose. And I'm very passionate about helping people to understand what they're doing and how to present it well. And I've got a few tools. We've got a few things. If you want to talk with me, you are more than welcome to talk with me. I would love for you to comment brand, and I will send you a link where you can sign up and we can have a one-on-one chat. And then if you want to be able to really do the work and have something in your hands tangibly, I've got a PDF worksheet that is perfect for you, specifically starting with the foundations, defining you and defining your brand. That helps you to define who you are, how you're going to show up in that space, and what exactly do you want the foundations of your brand to be. I walk you through that, and you'll be able to, by the end of the workbook, know and have identity with your brand and be able to start building. So if you're interested in that, you can comment pivot below. And other than that, I would love to hear your thoughts on Ned, on his comeback. Have you been watching? What are your thoughts on it? And what are your thoughts on the ideas that I have for comebacks? Do you feel like that's something that you would be able to do yourself if you had to pivot? Sound off below and check me out next time. I think this is going to be a new thing that I do. I would love to continue doing brand analysis and kind of giving my input on what would work and what would help in that space, no matter what the brand finds them in. So until next time, I'm Kat, and I'll see you soon. Bye.